In this video, I'm going to show you how to prototype this interaction that's common to a lot of product pages on e-commerce sites. This is the page we're going to be prototyping. We're going to create an interactive component for the color selector and a separate component for the product images, and then we're going to combine the two in one component. Since this is a prototype, I'm only going to make 3 of the colors selectable: cadmium deep red, rich gold, and iridescent green yellow. So first I'm going to copy the color selector and paste it here. Then I'm going to duplicate it 16 times because we've got 16 colors, and I'm going to rename the labels accordingly. Right now the default label says choose color. I've gone ahead and named all the colored circles. That's important. You'll see why later. It makes things faster at a certain point. The next step is to set up all the frames to show the right colors. So what I did was I gave each circle a stroke, a gray stroke, and then I hid the strokes. So I'm going to go into each frame, and so for example, the copper frame, going to click the copper circle and unhide the stroke for the appropriate color. Now I'm going to combine all the frames in a component set. But before I do that, I'm going to rename them. So I do this partly because I don't really know how to add a second property to an existing component set. I'm pretty sure it's easy to figure out how to do it, but this way is easy for me, so I just do it like this. And there are a lot of people I've seen who will create one default component and then create variants of that. I feel this way is quicker for me, so I do it this way. So I select all the frames and then give them one name. In this case, it's color choice / default / hover. Color choice being the name of the component set. Default is the first property. Now I'm going to change all the names individually after I've created the component set. I would normally rename them all individually with the right name. Like if there were 4 colors, red, yellow, blue, green, I would do that. But there's 16 of them, so I'm not going to do that. It's easier to just do it after I've created the set. So that's what I'm going to do for that. And then the second property is default hover because I'm going to create more sets. You'll see that in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to start prototyping this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect each circle, each color in the default to its respective frame. What the action should be is on while hovering, change to whatever the frame is. But if I were to do that individually, that takes time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag all of them, and they're all going to say on click. And then when I'm done, I'm going to change everything to while hovering. Okay, so I didn't mention before how I've set up the frames. What I did was I have all the circles in a frame called color, and then I have that frame and the label in another frame. So I'm going to change all the interactions at once by selecting the color frame and then pressing enter, so all the circles are individually selected. And then I'm going to go to the prototype panel on the side and change on click to while hovering. Okay, so that's the first set done. Before we continue, let's make sure that everything is working. Okay, so we see that when we hover over a color, the right name shows up, so that's good. So this is the effect that we want to create. We want to click on a color and have the stroke show as black to show that it's selected rather than just hovering. But when you hover over the other colors, it changes so you see the name of those colors. So what we're going to have to do now is create 3 different sets of what we just did. Basically create 3 duplicates of what we just did for the 3 different colors that we're going to prototype: the red, the gold, and the green yellow. So now we have 4 sets for the 4 stages: default, selected red, selected gold, and selected yellow green. But all the properties are the same, so we have to change that. The first property is the colors, so we're going to leave that alone. But the second property that says default hover, we need to change to have one set say hover on red, one say hover on gold, and one say hover on yellow green. Now we're going to make some changes to the new sets that we just made. We're going to start with the hover on red set. We want to keep the connections that we made from the first set, the default hover set. So we're going to change the label on the default frame from choose color to say cadmium deep red, since we're starting with that one. And then we're going to delete the original cadmium deep red frame because we don't need it anymore. Then we're going to select the cadmium deep red circle in that first frame and unhide the stroke. And then we're going to change the color of the stroke from gray to black to differentiate between the hover state and the selected state. So this is why I named all the colors properly in the beginning. What we're going to do is select all these frames. Now there's a plugin that I love so much. It makes things so quick. Which is why you have to name your layers so the plugin can actually find them. It's called Select Layers. So I'm going to choose Select Layers by name. I'm going to run the plugin and choose Select Layers by name and put in the exact name which I want to select. So now we've got all of these selected, we can go ahead and hide the stroke and then change the color to black. And now we've got all the strokes changing at once. You don't have to do it individually. Let's check it out and see what it looks like. So when you hover over it, over the colors, they change like normal, but then the color that you selected still remains as selected. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the gold and the yellow green. Now we need to change the properties of the frames we just changed. The first property will be whatever color has been selected, so red, gold, and yellow, green. And the second one for all three of them will be clicked, so that we can find them later, because we're going to need that at the end, towards the end. To save time, I've already set up the images in the required layout. So I'm just going to name them as usual before I group them and turn them into a component set, and then I'm going to tweak the properties as needed. Okay, so now we're going to prototype these frames so that when you click on one of the small pictures on the side, the picture in the middle changes to whatever you clicked on. So we're just going to connect all the small images to their respective larger frames. So let's go ahead and try this out before we combine both components into one big component and then finish this off. Cool, everything looks good. We've only got a few steps left. To create the final component, we need to go to the sample page, select the product images, the color selector, the quantity counter, and the button, and frame them, and then copy the frame. Actually, I didn't show this before. To get the layout of the product images right, I lined up 3 small images on the side of the large image, just like the components we just created, and then I gave the small images a pass-through of 0 to hide them, and then I framed all 4 images to keep them together. So we're going to paste the frame that we just copied here and duplicate it, and then copy and paste the appropriate components into their proper places. Then we're going to duplicate the red frame and change twice and change the variant so that one is gold and one is yellow-green. Okay, so now we're going to select all 4 frames and rename them as usual, and then turn them into a component set, and then we're going to prototype them. We're going to connect the red, gold, and yellow, green circles in the default frame to their respective frames, and then do the same thing for the other frame. So for example, if you click on the red circle in the default frame, it changes to a red frame, and if you click on the gold circle in the red frame, it changes to the gold frame, and so on. Okay, let's paste the default variant in the sample page and see if it works. So now all that's left is to connect the buttons from the different variants to their corresponding pop-up overlays, so that when you click add to cart, you get the pop-up that says it's been added to cart. I'm just connecting each button to the right overlay I've used these overlays before, so you can see the settings that I chose on the screen. When I was editing this, I realized I didn't show you this. So this quantity counter, I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it. I have used before, so it's already set up. Um, so it's prototyped so that when you click the plus button, the number goes up, and when you click the minus button, it goes down. Now, what I did was on the default, as you can see here, it's not a variant. I detached that instance because when it's in default mode, you haven't selected a color, so you shouldn't be able to change the quality of the thing you haven't selected. And then in the gold, you can see that that's a variant by this diamond on the side of the label here. Now everything's done, let's have a look at the final result. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.